Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about the Hellhound. Now, whether you're using the Hellhound for your role-playing game in general or for Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, Castles or Crusades, Tunnels and Trolls, whatever game system you're playing, it doesn't matter. The concept behind the Hellhound is essentially the same. Or is it? Because actually there's quite a lot going on here when we talk about the Hellhound. And so for today, that's my topic, is to break that all down for you. What are you going to get for today? Well, I'm going to go over the basics of the Hellhound in terms of monster lore. I'm going to give you biology, which you probably don't know very much about because there isn't very much there. Mythical and legendary monsters and creatures don't usually have that sort of thing. I'm also going to do how to use them in combat, how to go about dealing with their habitat, society, ecology, how to incorporate them into your adventure, how to defeat them if you're trying to do that, and the origins of the Hellhound, because there's multiple origins for the Hellhound. Hellhounds or blackhounds are canines from another plane of existence. Sometimes hell, sometimes it's the underworld, sometimes in fact it's heaven. And you're probably saying, well, why is it called a hellhound? But that's why they're called blackhounds as well, or other spirit hounds. The afterlife, another place that they might be coming from. So they don't actually reside necessarily in hell every single time when you look at the folklore and the mythology behind them. A hellhound resembles a large hound with black or rust brown fur with red glowing eyes. And that's usually the depiction that you get. The hellhound's coat, its fur, its teeth, its tongue are all soot black. You'll notice this creature generally is completely black. They are designed to be unseen, and we'll talk more about that in a second. Hellhounds stand taller than other dogs from the foot to the shoulder and have a distinctive odour of smoke or sulphur. The hellhound howl it sounds very eerie, and it has a sort of like a hollow tone to it and sends like a shiver down your spine. And the idea behind the hellhound is to scare people. Generally, that's how we use them, is like, how do we scare somebody? Well, you can use a hellhound. That's the way to do it. The eyes of the hellhound. So let's do the biology. There isn't very much out there, so I had to pull this together. The eyes of the hellhound are very important. In some ways, they're very similar to a dog's. Because dogs have more rod-shaped receptors in their retina than most other creatures, and as a result of having quite a lot of rod-shaped receptors, they have good night vision, and the same applies to the hellhound. Unfortunately, there are mysteries yet to be discovered about the hellhound's biology, because they also appear to have X-ray vision, infrared heat vision. They have some sort of, there even seems to be like a supernatural aspect to the hellhound's sight, because they can see invisible creatures, detect extra-dimensional planar travellers, and spirits. You may even say they can probably detect you if you're hiding, so they can see through stuff. This is why I said X-ray vision. A hellhound's nose has at least 200 million cells in the nose, allowing the hound to actually smell anything miles away. So its ability to pick up a scent is very, very good. The ears of a hellhound are butterfly jointed. This allows them to change direction for greater accuracy to detect the position of a noise or sound. So they kind of like shift around like little satellite disc. It's not a satellite disc, but that's, I suppose, the best way to describe it. There are 42 teeth in the jaw of a hellhound, which include 4 canine teeth for grabbing, pulling, wounding, ripping flesh, and crushing bone. The hellhound have, well, some of them have fire breath. There doesn't appear to be a biological mechanism that explains this phenomena, so it's likely a supernatural origin for the actual fire breath. The skull of a hellhound is longer than a normal wolf or dog, and this longer, larger skull allows for extensive housing of muscle mass in the cheeks to aid in its extreme biting force. That's why it has that there. Because of the skull of a hellhound being longer and larger, there is space for an advanced cerebral cortex that is likely responsible for much of its unusual senses and tactical behaviour because it's a smart hunter. Okay, the actual combat aspect of a hellhound. You could play them just like any wolf or dog if you really wanted to, but I have something for you. So combat for the hellhound. Hellhounds are clever hunters that operate in packs. A hellhound doesn't bay like a normal dog while hunting. Instead, it remains very, very quiet and silent. Hellhounds move with greater stealth than most other canines of their type, making it easier for them to surprise their prey. So one or two hellhound of the pack will actually sneak up on its quarry while the others form like a ring around it. It's the same hunting tactic as a wolf generally. You usually have one or two from the pack who actually chase down the quarry or the prey, and the others set up an ambush of some kind. The leading hellhound in the pack will spring from an ambush, attacks the nearest victim, and attempts to drive the other prey towards the rest of the pack who are waiting somewhere. If the prey doesn't run away, the rest of the hellhound pack will close quickly to pull down that victim or prey to the ground. So this is the normal hunting process of any wolf, but hellhounds do exactly the same sort of thing. While hellhounds are pursuing fleeing prey, they mate. This is where they may actually howl or bay, and this is usually to communicate with the other hellhounds what's going on if they have to spread out. Not all hellhounds have the same abilities or powers, such as fire breath. Much to your surprise, I'm assuming you're like, oh, all hellhounds must breathe fire, but not necessarily. Hellhounds attack first by breathing fire at an opponent if they have this ability, and then they follow up with their teeth, biting and pulling the creature to the ground, and once it's up on the ground, that's where it will finish it off. Usually with a killing blow, whether it be a large cat or a canine or a dog or a hound in this case, it's always going to go for the throat, piercing it with its canines, causing blood flow, and of course, once you pierce into the throat of anything, it will bleed out very, very quickly. And they just hold it there until it finally succumbs to loss of blood flow. So if a hellhound grabs a victim in its jaw successfully, it will breathe fire on the victim. So just because it's bitten down on something, if it can breathe fire, it will. And you are right up there in the blast furnace. Hellhounds have a variety of different defenses depending on the individual hound. So, as a general rule, all hellhounds have immunity to fire, but dependent on the hellhound you're dealing with and the type, it may have other defenses that aren't well known, so they can vary. The hellhound's keen hearing means that it is really surprised by enemies, so trying to ambush any kind of hellhound is pretty unlikely. The habitat and society of your hellhound. Hellhounds communicate with vocal sounds, body postures, scent, touch, and taste. That's how they communicate. Much like a hound, a dog, or a wolf, again. Hellhounds are often native to those extra-dimensional places noted for their hot, fiery landscapes, but not always. The hellhound roams in nomadic packs. Hellhounds on the primal plane are often summoned there to serve the needs of an evil creature. Most hellhounds later escape into the wild while on the material plane, and they'll always be generally trying to seek to go back to their original place or home. Each pack of hellhounds is led by an alpha leader like a wolf pack. The diet of a hellhound is similar to that of any normal canine, so that's how they generally eat. And if you were unaware, canines are actually not necessarily meat eaters, they're actually omnivores, but their diet tends to be primarily meat. The hellhound roams a wide area of about 14 square miles, centered on their den once they have set up a den. Pack territories for the hellhound can overlap. This can create problems at times. A hellhound does not easily reproduce on the material plane or the physical world. It's possible, but it's much more easy for it to do it where it was originally formed, its original home. Hellhound puppies are born in litters of between 2 and 8 puppies. Unfortunately, hellhound puppies burp flame uncontrollably at least once a day while they are in the puppy form. So a lot of things wind up catching on fire. Prey is usually eaten when it is slain, though some hellhounds occasionally will haul the carcass back to their den for later meals. But generally they will tear off sections, consume them, or take those sections back to their den to eat later. Hellhounds are also similar to normal canines in that they may act as retrievers, so they can actually be trained. I'll talk more about that in a second. The ecology of a hellhound. All hellhounds have very little place in the normal world, because that's not their normal place of residence. Commonly, the hellhound might serve an evil being, but as I said, this is not always the case. Sometimes they have a different purpose. The hellhound is usually a guardian for a spirit or a powerful creature or being or an important place. So they can fulfill many different purposes, but generally it's a guardian or guard of some kind. Hellhounds act as a guide for the recently dead or deceased and will lead them to the afterlife, whether that be hell or heaven, so that they don't get lost in the physical world. This is probably one aspect of the hellhound that a lot of people miss, and this is the fact that they are guides for the dead. Hellhounds cause more forest fires than other creatures except for humanoids generally. Hellhounds have their uses because of their ability to easily detect hidden or invisible creatures, which they are very good at doing. They make excellent watchdogs, especially for an intelligent monster such as a fire giant. So if you've got fire giants in your campaign or an adventure, fire giants may well have hellhounds just because they can exist around each other in the environment they're used to. And it's the environment that a fire giant lives in is so similar to what a hellhound is used to, they will generally stay with them. Hellhounds can be domesticated if raised from puppies, but there is a 10% chance each year that a domesticated hellhound will go wild, including if fire giants do this. If you're a fire giant, there's always a chance they'll run off. Okay, how do you incorporate the hellhound in your adventure? Doesn't matter what you're playing. So Cerberus, the three-headed dragon-tailed dog that guards the underworld to Hades, is sort of a good example. If you've got an underworld, then put your hellhounds there. Most of these ideas I'm presenting to you, by the way, are from the Game Master Roundtable, and if you go to Wally DM's channel, you'll find a live stream where we talked about the Hellhound with AJ Pickett, Esper the Bard, Dungeon Dad, myself, and Wally DM. And if you want to see all those ideas sort of brought to fruition, you can check them out there. Now also, the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper Hellhounds that possess the bodies of the living can open up a door to an evil god that intends to destroy the world. Now, what you're hearing is Ghostbusters, the first movie. That's essentially there are two hellhounds in the Ghostbusters movie, and they essentially possess the bodies of the living for a very particular purpose. So I'm presenting that idea. It's not uncommon if you look at other types of lore, mythology, and folklore that hellhounds would be capable of possessing the living. Because they're not in every respect a monster. They have a very sort of supernatural, spirit-like aspect to them as well. Huge invisible hellhounds that hunt the living and drag them back to hell. So if you want to make things really scary for your players, then make them invisible and make them larger than they would normally be. Packs of hellhounds feeding off the evil lava souls in the river Styx is another idea. You would probably find them in hell or the Nine Hells if you're using the Nine Hells, but any kind of hell would do. You could also have a dessert called the Flame Creme Hell Boule, or is it Hellhound? the Flame Creme Hellhound. And it can look like a black dog. You know, when you put it on the plate, there you are. It's time to have a hellhound for your dessert. A fiend hunter that uses a pack of hellhounds. What I'm referring to here when I say a fiend hunter is somebody who hunts down fiends, demons and devils. And what they've done is they've figured out the true name of the hellhound, and by calling it by its true name, they are able to retain some sort of control over them, or at least negotiate with them. And these hellhounds go out and hunt down demons and devils so that they can be vanquished. You could do this with your player characters. They could have somebody within the group who is a fiend hunter and uses hellhounds. You could also have a Hellhound sledge dog team for traveling, say, the snowy tundra or landscape at night, or maybe you have a sled team of Hellhounds to travel across a flamey plane of existence. Hellhounds can be pets of fire giants, as I mentioned before, but they can also be the pets and companions to the Erifit and fire elementals, so not just the fire giant. You could also have a Hellhound puppy that is adopted by a group of adventurers that causes lots of big problems. If you've had a dog before and you know what it's like to have a puppy, this is a good idea. Well, you can have a lot of fun messing with the players with this. As I had mentioned before, Hellhounds can be spirit guides that allow those who have recently died make their way back to the afterlife, to heaven or hell, whichever you choose, so that they don't get lost on the physical world. I think this is one of the more attractive ideas, where it's going kind of outside of what people usually use your Hellhound for. And then, of course, you could also have packs of Hellhounds attacking and feeding on the troops of two warring nations at night. An example would be during World War II, there was a story that the Allies, the American soldiers, were fighting the Nazis, the Germans, and at night, as they, during the day the battle would go on, but at night things would get quiet, and what they would wind up happening is that these dogs that they swear were Hellhounds were killing the troops, or tearing them apart or injuring them and then dragging them off. So pretty horrible stuff, but apparently a true story. And if it's not a true story, it makes a good story that you can use. How to defeat the Hellhound? Well, avoid standing in the blast furnace of a Hellhound that breathes fire. Probably the first thing you want to try and do. Hellhounds need to get close to harm you, so pick a spot a long distance from them if you can. Standing on an elevated or an area that's been lifted up, particularly a place that can't be climbed by a dog, is probably the most sensible thing to do. So if you can stand on a big rock or stay in a tree, dogs don't generally climb trees. Spread out so the pack can't focus on one single player character. It's probably a very smart thing to do, because if you've got Hellhounds that breathe fire and they're breathing in like a cone, then you're probably going to wind up with more than a few of you getting hit at the same time. So spreading out will help reduce the amount of pain that you suffer in the burns. Don't try to flee from a Hellhound. They move way too quickly to do so, so unless you are flying, you probably won't get away. So running away won't work. Now, the origins of the Hellhound. Now, I already mentioned Cerberus, from ancient Greek mythology. The guardian three-headed dog in the underworld. But Scandinavia, there's a lot of folklore around the Hellhound from Scandinavia, but also Gamar. Now, I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, but it's spelt Garmr from Norse mythology. And then there's the black dogs of English folklore, which you may or may not know of. They're sort of a different version of the Hellhound. We also have the fairy hounds of Celtic mythology. And lastly, the Hellhound has been appropriated by Dungeons & Dragons creators over the last 40 years. But the history of the Hellhound, the black dogs, and the fairy hounds or spirit hounds has been around for hundreds, thousands of years. So, yeah, there's a lot there to play with if you want to. Really up to you what you want to do with this. I think it's a fun creature to incorporate into your adventure. It has a lot of potential. Now, I'm hoping that this was useful to you, and if it was, fantastic. I want to thank all of my patrons who've been supporting me on Patreon. Of course, everything that I talk about here will go up onto Patreon if you're looking for it. There are a whole lot of notes on the Hellhound that will go there. Also, I want to thank everybody who's been watching this live stream and my videos. I do appreciate it. It's a big deal. Okay, it makes a huge difference. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.